The Special Air Service, SAS, is a special forces unit of the British Army and one of the most feared elite units. The majority of SAS missions were and remain highly classified. They cover such a wide range of dangerous missions, from infiltrating behind enemy lines to storming fortified positions, air and sea operations, and deadly firefights. We've been able to learn more about these truly elite soldiers' secret missions as more documents have become declassified. Do you want to know more about the secret missions of the SAS, which show why they are considered one of the best special forces in the world? Keep watching this video to learn more. Brief background. The Special Air Service, SAS, is a British Army Special Forces squad with a reputation for professionalism and efficiency. The SAS was established as a regiment in 1941, and it was reformed into a corps in 1950. Lieutenant David Stirling of the No. 8 Guards Commando was the mastermind behind the formation of the SAS. He discovered that small, self-sufficient and adaptable groups of troops could sneak through German defenses and strike important targets like air bases and equipment depots before escaping. Small teams of parachute-trained soldiers would infiltrate behind enemy lines to gather intelligence, disable hostile aircraft, and strike enemy supply and reinforcement routes according to his strategy. The squad specializes in counter-terrorism and hostage rescue, covert reconnaissance, and direct action, among other things. The SAS continued to serve in this capacity until the end of the war in a variety of locations and operations. The SAS had sustained 330 casualties by the end of World War II on May 8, 1945, but had killed or maimed 7,733 enemies and captured 23,000 more. Due to the obvious confidentiality and sensitivity of the SAS's operation, most of the information regarding the unit is highly classified, and neither the British government nor the Ministry of Defence comment on it. With a name like Speed, Aggression, Surprise, and a motto of Who Dares Wins, it's no surprise they're a top-tier elite squad. Now let's look at some of the most famous SAS missions of all time. 1. Desert Airfield Raid, 1941. On November 16, 1941, the SAS commandos launched their first operation. When sandstorms and 35-mile-an-hour winds disrupted the SAS deployments and made it impossible for them to find much of their equipment, things went horribly wrong. 40 soldiers out of 62 were killed or taken. However, their second operation was far more successful, demonstrating that they were fast learners. Trucks from the Long Range Desert Group, another unit operating behind German lines, were being used to drop off SAS teams at 4 air bases, where they managed to sneak onto the tarmac and plant time-delayed bombs on the aircraft before escaping. They were successful in destroying 61 planes while sustaining no loss themselves. Over 200 enemy planes were destroyed by the SAS during the North African War. This number was larger than the total number of aircraft destroyed by the RAF during the same period. Number 2. Iranian Embassy Siege, 1980. This was the operation that first brought the SAS to the public's attention, and it was a huge success. 6 terrorists invaded the UK Iranian embassy on April 30th, 1980, taking 26 hostages and demanding, among other things, autonomy for the Iraqi province of Khuzestan and the release of 92 Arabs imprisoned in Iran. The SAS commandos stormed the building after 6 days of negotiating. The SAS members were well trained and battle-ready, and they instantly killed 5 of the terrorists and captured the 6th. Although 1 hostage was killed as a result of this, the unit worked exceptionally swiftly to eliminate the terrorists in the UK Iranian embassy. That singular act of valor made the SAS known to the general public for the first time. Number 3. The Indonesian Coup, 1962. Britain planned to create a new state out of Southeast Asian colonies such as Malaya, Singapore, Brunei, North Borneo, and Sarawak in 1962. Malaysia would be the name of this new state, but not everyone was in support of it. Indonesian insurgents fought back violently against Britain's effort to establish Malaysia. Thousands of insurgents remain in Indonesian cities, sparking violence and posing a threat. As a result, the SAS was dispatched to police the area. When Indonesian insurgents attempted to repel British soldiers by crossing safe boundaries, the situation became even worse. As a result, the SAS went after the insurgents. The SAS's victory resulted in the dictatorial President Sukarno being removed as a leader, signaling the end of the conflict. Number 4. Assault on the Jebel Akhdar. Oman, a small country in the Middle East governed by Sultan Saeed bin Taimur, may seem an unlikely location for a classic SAS mission. However, because Oman had been allied with Britain since the 18th century when rebels headed by the Sultan's brother took control of a vast territory in 1957, the Sultan resorted to Britain for assistance. The British sent a handful of military units to Oman, but they were unable to put down the revolt. A single unit of SAS soldiers, 64 men, was initially meant to be sent, but another squadron arrived later. They were up against a tough challenge. The mountains had not been conquered in about 2,000 years, and the only way to the top was along narrow paths that cut through steep ravines and canyons and were overlooked by higher-ups. D Squadron began marching up the mountain's south side at exactly 8:30 a.m. on January 26, 1959. Each man carried 54 kilograms, about 119 pounds, of gear up 7,000 feet, 2 kilometers of treacherous terrain. Several men passed out, but thanks to a distraction operation at Tanuf, the road was barely guarded. A sniper's bullet, on the other hand, exploded a grenade inside an SAS soldier's bag, killing 2 SAS soldiers and wounding another. Despite this, they overcame the weak resistance promptly. The rebels mistook the squadron's resupply drops for paratroopers and retreated, leaving behind huge amounts of supplies and equipment. Number 5. Operation Pebble Island. In the early 1980s, during the Falklands War, the unit carried out the Operation Pebble Island. This was a battle between Argentina and the United Kingdom about who had the right to the Falkland Islands. Britain quickly dispatched a naval fleet and military troops to protect the island, but they were more concerned about one thing. Argentina boasted a well-trained and equipped air force that constituted a significant threat to the British Navy, and this had to be countered properly to ensure victory. The SAS was called in for help, and within a short time they had pinpointed an airport near the Falklands that harbored a number of Argentinian planes. An airstrike was deemed inappropriate because it would result in many civilian casualties. Instead, the SAS undertook a daring land assault. The SAS unit was moved into position on Pebble Island and proceeded to carry out their strategy, while a nearby British battleship provided cover fire. The SAS warriors destroyed every airplane they came across with gunfire, missile launchers, and bombs in order to accomplish their mission. Number 6. Sierra Leone Hostage Rescue, Operation Barras. On the 25th of August 2000, 11 soldiers of the 1st Royal Irish Regiment, who were operating in Sierra Leone in support of a United Nations peacekeeping operation, were ambushed in their Land Rovers by a large number of rebels from a group known as the West Side Boys, deep in rebel territory. They were all kidnapped and dragged to the insurgent camp as hostages. 5 hostages were released within the following few days, but negotiations stalled, and Fode Calais, the rebel leader, threatened to execute the remaining captives. Because the rebel base was near a river, SBS and SAS personnel utilized inflatable rafts to go upstream, where they established intelligence-gathering surveillance positions in the bush. On September 10th, SAS troops used 2 Chinook helicopters to attack the camp, which was backed up by 3 Lynx helicopters and Mi-24 Hind artillery. They swiftly hauled the hostages in from the helicopters as they were hovering, with the support of the surveillance teams who emerged from their hiding spots to attack the camp. Meanwhile, a crack battalion of Parachute Regiment paratroopers raided a nearby insurgent base to prevent it from assisting the rebels. Many of the rebels were intoxicated on drugs or felt they were unkillable because they used magic charms, so they fought ferociously. However, with the help of rockets, missiles, and automatic gunfire from the gunships, the highly trained SAS, SBS, and paratroopers cleared the rebel camps one after the other. Before the Chinooks emerged to evacuate the troops and prisoners, they battled off all the insurgents. A ricocheting bullet from an AK-47 killed 1 SAS soldier and a dozen others were wounded, whereas 18 rebels, including Fode Calais, were seized, and at least 25 insurgents were killed. Number 7. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 181, Operation Feuerzauber, Fire Magic. On October 13, 1977, 4 members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine hijacked Lufthansa Flight 181. The pilot was forced to fly to several airports in Rome, Cyprus, Bahrain, Dubai, Aden, and eventually Mogadishu by the terrorists. They wanted a $15 million ransom, as well as the release of their members being held in German and Turkish prisons. The pilot, Captain Schumann, went out of the cockpit after a difficult landing on a piece of sandy land in Aden to examine the landing gear for damage. On returning to the plane, the terrorist leader, who went by the name Mahmoud, was furious. Schumann was executed with a single bullet to the head. Captain Schumann's body was thrown down to the tarmac in Mogadishu by the terrorist after the co-pilot was ordered to take over flying the plane. Unknown to the terrorists, a jet carrying members of the elite German anti-terrorist squad GSG-9 had been following them from airport to airport. They were joined by 2 SAS soldiers who gave them a supply of newly created stun grenades as well as training on how to use them. As the terrorists awaited their demands to be fulfilled, the SAS and GSG-9 joint team approached the plane in the dark and used ladders to get onto the wings. The SAS guys blew the emergency doors open and immediately threw stun grenades in. Soldiers from GSG-9 stormed in, calling for the captives to lie down, and opened fire. 3 terrorists were instantly killed, including Mahmoud, who was shot before he could trigger the explosives set up around the aircraft, and the 4th terrorist was apprehended. Only 4 hostages and 1 GSG-9 soldier were injured in the operation. The SAS engaged in numerous other missions, but these are the ones currently declassified. So what do you think about the SAS elite unit and their special operations? Please let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.